Hey guys, welcome back to another Knife Makers Friday 5. Today we're going to be talking about jigs and fixtures. So I haven't done a Friday 5 in several months now. I've been doing a lot of stuff about my folders and various other things. Just thought it'd be fun to kind of get back and do another one of the Friday 5s. First, a little announcement before we start talking about fixtures and jigs. I get a lot of teaching requests, and so if you're interested in that, if you're interested in hanging out with me and learning a little bit about Japanese sword making, I'll be teaching a Japanese sword making class at the Tryon Arts and Crafts School in Tryon, North Carolina next month. It's going to run March 4th through March 8th, 2019. That's important. If you're watching this in 2059, it's way back in the rear view mirror. But if you're watching this right after it comes out, we will be doing it next month. We won't be doing smelt and tamahagane and some of the traditional preliminaries of Japanese sword making. What we will be doing is forging a short sword, either a tanto or a wakizashi, and then we will clay harden it and heat treat it and shape it and all that sort of thing. And if there's time, we may not have time, but if there's time, we'll do a little bit of work on polishing also. Okay, well, let's go ahead and turn to the main topic for today, which is jigs and fixtures. So I've been thinking about fixtures and jigs a lot lately because I've, in the process of kind of getting these Tactics Armory folding knives that I've been working on, moving slowly towards production. There's just a lot of fixturing and a lot of stuff that I have to do in order to be able to produce these things one after another. So before I get started talking about the intricacies of it, little definitions here. Jigs and fixtures. A fixture is basically anything that holds your work and allows you to, do some kind of manipulation or operation on that work in a repeatable sort of way. Jigs are basically kind of a subcategory of fixtures, which allow you to basically steer a particular tool in a particular place or path or whatever. I mean, the most obvious kind of jig would be something that, like a piece of metal that you can clamp onto your drill press with a bunch of holes drilled in it, and you just drill through those holes, and it allows you to repeatedly put those holes in exactly the same place every single time. That's a typical sort of jig. Now, I've been doing a whole bunch of videos about fixtures lately, and I'll provide links to them here in the description and in the cards, and you can check some of those out, and maybe you'll see something that's useful to you in your kind of knife making. So about 15 years ago, I went to the Jim Batson Hammer-In, which is an annual bladesmithing event over in Alabama. And there was a guy there who did a presentation about jigs and fixtures, a little class. And, I was just getting started as a knife maker at the time, and his class, I don't know, it was intriguing to me, and yet I sort of felt like it wasn't all that useful to me at the time, because kind of the essence of what you're using jigs and fixtures to do is to repeat one task over and over. Everything that I did back then, I was doing all Japanese sword kind of stuff at the time, and, every single thing that I did was a one-off. And I sort of felt like there was something sort of uncool about jigs and fixtures where you're trying to just repeat a single thing over and over. And as I was watching it, I found it really interesting. Over time, what I found was that I found more and more uses for fixtures in my own work. And of course, in the last few years, as I've turned more towards my Tactics Armory stuff, where I have specific models and those get repeated over and over again, fixtures have become just really basic to how I do everything. But I guess the question is, if you're just getting started as a knife maker or whatever, why would jigs or fixtures be interesting to you? if you're not making tons and tons of the same design or whatever. Well, realistically, if you're doing everything as a complete one-off, there's somewhat of a limit to the usefulness for them. But even then, there are really, some very handy things that even if you're making a different kind of knife every single time, you might want to, drill the handle pins in the exact same location on several different knives. And so drilling a hole through a piece of metal or whatever, and knowing that every time you drill through those little holes, you're going to have them in the exact same location every time, might be really useful. So anyway, my general point here is that if you really sink your teeth into this subject, it's actually more interesting than some people might think. So the most obvious reason for using a jig or a fixture is to speed things up. It just allows you to put a piece of metal into a particular little fixture and clamp something down, and then repeat some particular operation, drill in certain holes or whatever it might be, milling off a little slot or whatever. And it's great to speed things up, especially if you're trying to make a little money off of knife making. Time's money, and so every minute that you can shave off building something is more money in your pocket. But there actually are a bunch of things that are beneficial about using fixtures that you might not think of right off the bat. The first of which is that it helps with your quality. One of the things that happens when you're custom making or hand making or whatever, making knives on a kind of one-off basis, is that you make something and then you try and do it again a couple months later, and maybe you've forgotten how you did it, or there was something that you kind of got lucky on the first time and now you're trying to repeat it and you just can't seem to make it happen again. And you spend all this time fussing around trying to get something right, and sometimes you may not, after all that effort, you may still get it wrong or just not as well as you did it the first time, and it's very frustrating. So a fixture can be really helpful for these, kind of skill type things where you're doing a particular thing in a particular way a bunch of times. So if you can build a little fixture that allows you to repeatedly, drill a set of holes or, mill something off or cut something or whatever it might be, just placing something in your drill press in a certain way so that you can precisely do the same thing a bunch of times. It's not just that it saves you time, it actually increases the quality of your work, and it allows you to get past certain kinds of fussing around, messing around, how did I do that kind of things that happen to all of us as we're sort of running around the shop making up things as we go along. So really, improvements in quality are something that no matter who you are, you're always trying to step up your game, and so that's kind of one of the first non-obvious things about fixtures that can really be helpful in the shop. But there's another interesting and kind of hidden benefit in making fixtures, and that's that it makes you think through your processes. When we're making one-off knives, we tend to stumble around and improvise a lot, and that's really fun, and it's actually a lot of what I think draws many people to knife making, but it's not necessarily the best way to improve your craft. And so sometimes it helps to kind of step back from what you're doing and to be analytical about how you do a particular thing. And one of the things that you find is, like, if you've been doing something a certain way, if you step back and look at it, you realize, like, that's kind of dumb the way that I've been doing it. Maybe there's a better way, and you can use fixtures sometimes as a means to tell yourself a better way of doing something. So what kind of things are good candidates for making a fixture? I would say that really when I walk around my shop doing stuff, it's just a common feeling to just kind of go like, it seems like I can never get this thing to come out exactly the same. Anytime you get that feeling in the pit of your stomach like, this sucks, there's something I'm doing here that's just not working right. Anytime you feel that in the shop, that's probably a sign that if you built a fixture or made a jig or something, you might be able to kind of iron that little process or task or whatever it is out and do it better. You know, people who aren't really craftsmen often think that there are two kinds of craftsmen. There are good people and people who stink. But that's just totally wrong. You know, it's a continuum. We're all on a path to get better. If I thought I wasn't going to get better tomorrow than I am today, I wouldn't want to get out of bed. To me, you know, the thing that keeps me interested in knife making is that I'm always trying to challenge myself. I'm always trying to come up with a better way of doing something. And, you know, jigs and fixtures are just one little tool, one little alleyway of finding something that you have identified that you could do better and figuring out a way to improve it. Now, one of the pitfalls of jigs and fixtures and all kinds of tools in the shop is that sometimes it can be so attractive to say, oh, I could save 10 minutes doing thus and such if I just had a little goodie that would, you know, make it easier. And you can spend so much time on all these little shop fixtures and gizmos and goodies that you don't get anything done. So you just have to weigh that, put that into the hopper, and kind of hope for the best. And if you find that all you're doing is making shop tools, maybe you need to curtail that and get back to making knives. Or not, you know, if you're having fun doing it, then who cares? It's all the same, right? But, you know, if things are looking a little stale for you around your shop, I'd encourage you to, you know, as you're making your next knife, look for that moment where you feel like, oh, I don't like the way this works, and think, hey, is there a fixture I could do, I could find here that would help me do this a little bit better? Speaking of doing better, some of you know I had surgery a couple weeks ago. Got a lot of nice well wishes from folks, and many thanks to everybody who wrote to me and contacted me. It was nothing serious. Everybody in my family has inguinal hernias, and it's just a genetic thing. So it wasn't from lifting anvils or anything. It just my number was up, and it was time to get it fixed. So I'm really back to about 95%, back to the gym and everything, and feeling much better. So again, thanks to everybody who's wished me well in the recovery, and I'm really, you know, pretty much back to normal now. All right, last thing, I really should have a few folding knives for sale in the next week or two. Those of you who've been following me for a while know that I've been really for probably 8 or 10 months now. I've been working on this project, and it's really exciting to me to see that it's finally coming to fruition. Kind of nervous about it because it's something different for me, and I really want to do my best to get everything right. But anyway, more on that soon, but should have some folding knives available at tacticsarmory.com pretty soon. All right, thanks for hanging out with me, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for watching, guys. If you feel like you got something out of this video, don't forget to subscribe. Also, click on the link to Patreon for a great way to give back to the channel. Plus, check me out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Links in the description. If you want something sharp and pointy, maybe a gift for yourself or one of the cooler people in your life, check out my Tactics Armory website and pick up one of our tactical or outdoor knives. And finally, if you want to learn to make Hamones or Japanese swords, check out WalterSorrellsBlades.com, where you can find videos about how I make Hamones, as well as forging, mounting, polishing, and fittings for Japanese swords. Thanks, and see you soon.